we are good to go.
Okay, well, let's just go ahead and get started talking about our topic for today. This is the 6th Digital Assistant Throwdown, and our topic today is companionship, and we'll have some pretty good examples of what that means and how the various virtual assistants deal with that kind of interaction. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so what do we mean by companionship? Most of the topics we've talked about so far have been where the assistant is helping with practical tasks. It's giving you information or controlling your house or telling you something, playing music. They're all kind of practical tasks. But what we're talking about with companionship is things that what we might technically call non-task oriented conversations. It's something that you're not really trying to achieve a goal by interacting with the assistant. You might be performing some kinds of social functions. Basically, we looked at how they respond to requests for companionship. And then there's a whole bunch of things that you can group under the topic of getting to know each other. Like talking about general topics in the news, not really having a particular goal in mind, your likes and dislikes, movies is a popular thing to talk about, your family, hobbies, jobs, and things like that a friend could provide, things like listening to your complaints about your job, your relatives, your neighbors. That's a big feature of human friends. That they'll listen to your complaints, maybe give you some advice, or maybe just listen. So yeah, we can go to the next slide now. Why do we want to help users with companionship? There are a lot of users who are isolated or lonely. People often think of elderly people as isolated or lonely, but there's plenty of non-elderly people that are isolated or lonely, or maybe they're just in lockdown and they happen to live alone, and they don't have access to their friends. Can provide friendship, a sounding board, like we were just talking about on the last slide about complaints, and then over and above what, I mean, maybe even better than talking to a human, you might talk about topics that you don't want to talk about with a human, like complaints about your relatives. Maybe you don't want to tell your sister that you're mad at your mom. Maybe that's not, you're worried about the security of that information. And then another thing that is kind of interesting is something that we see in the practical, generic assistants like Alexa and Siri. Just being there, being an assistant, doing practical things for you, is that enough to promote you socially as a potential companion to users? And I think there are actually a lot of interesting examples about that, where people have kind of bonded or made friends with one of their assistants, even though it's not really trying to be a friend, it's just there and it's helping you with things, and people kind of develop friendly feelings toward it.
And some of the articles I was looking at were talking about people with some sort of mobility limitations, right? Where just the fact that you can control your light switches and do, things, checking the weather and things that were much harder for you before having this digital assistant, that it's really providing a valuable service. And it's in like a weird gray space. Like it's not a, it's not a dog, who's like trained to do things for you, but it serves a bit of that function of like a service animal. Um, so yeah, I thought that was like another interesting category.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. If a lot of people with disabilities or older people have a human assistant that comes in and helps them with things. And I think if they're on a fairly permanent basis, they definitely develop into not necessarily a dear friend, but certainly someone with you have a lot of
Right.
friendly feelings toward them.
Yeah.
And they started out helping you with practical tasks.
Right, exactly. And it's not like your Alexa is gonna, help you bathe, but it is gonna do some of the things that you're not able to do on your own. So yeah.
Um, okay, so let's take a look at how the current crop of digital assistants handle companionship. And we can look at the things that are in our spreadsheet and think about how are they like friends, how are they like helpers, and where do they fall short in our uh, quest for companionship. Um, I think I set the time for 15 minutes. This will be on the next slide. Yeah, because we had been using 10 minutes and we always found that that wasn't enough time. So what we can do now is take 15 minutes and look at the spreadsheet and try out our assistance on some of these kinds of utterances.
Cool. We have a small, cozy group today.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
I think
Interesting.
Katie.
Shruti, yeah. Hey, Katie. I think Shruti is having some trouble. I saw her joining in and off. So on and off, so I don't know what's happening with her. But Katie, are you able to see the Excel sheet?
Yeah, I'm in there now. And are these are just samples and we kind of can iterate on those or?
Yeah, like so try versions of that or whatever you want and then just enter stuff. And then we'll talk about it after we've like done our separate experimentation.
Yeah, you could, if try anything that you think is kind of touches on the topic of companionship. Could be anything.
This is such an interesting one. Thank you. I'm curious to see what happens.
All right,
I think this will be really good.
The sheet over here too. All right. Oh, lots of like blank space. All right, let's do this.
Okay, Tina, I just saw you joined. So if you don't know what we are doing, so there is an Excel sheet in the chat window. You can pick that. And we are testing these different voice assistants for companionship. So here are some examples. You can use some of those, or you can pick any other use cases for companionship and test the assistant and add your responses to the Excel sheet.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
No worries.
Hi, sorry. Thank you.
That was about 15 minutes. Do we need more time?
I don't know. I mean, I was still testing things out, but do people want more time? Katie, Tina, do you want to do more tests?
I'm good.
Sorry, it's not in
I'm good.
Katie's turn.
I'm
You want to do
doing
more
a
tests.
verbal crossword, so
Give it
apparently
another
I'm
try. By the
easily
way,
engaged
remember that like a paper
by
crossword,
these
there can
devices.
be multiple reasonable answers.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Use the clever reveals to help you narrow
Okay.
things down, or say pass to move on. And
All right, so I think we have a lot of responses today to go through.
Oh, crap, sorry. It's still playing. All right, there we go. Okay, so any noteworthy ones from up here? These are the ones you did, right, Debbie? These are your seed ones.
Yeah, let me see what was interesting.
That's kind of a good
here.
one. I'll be your friend in fair weather or foul.
The Alexa one, I thought that was kind of annoying.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Are we besties? I don't think so.
Somebody thought that was funny. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are not amused.
There was one, let me see, that some of them are really offensive, I think. Oh, the one, so line 17 from Siri, that person is trying to complain about their boss. But I
yeah,
don't know.
they've not hit the right tone on that one.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And that doesn't add anything to the response. Like, again, who thought that was a good idea to add that?
Right. This person was writing, they were frustrated.
I'm just going to say a dude probably wrote that.
Yeah.
The one under it was pretty bad too.
This one? Yeah.
Annoy my mom.
No. Oh, God.
Yeah, I don't know.
And again, like, yeah, as we say, this, you know, it's at least an attempt, right?
Yeah. I asked, I think it was Cortana. I was trying to, usually if you talk about favorite movies and books and music, they tell you what they're interested in, and then it's kind of your turn. So I asked Cortana about its favorite movie, and it said something fairly interesting.
That's interesting.
And then I followed that up with something a couple lines down.
Oh
yeah.
Boy.
Why do you like that?
Right.
Which you would say to a person.
Right.
And it thinks you're trying to pull something.
I feel Cortana's responses were better comparatively. Siri has a standard template for most. Either it will say, I don't understand, or I'll look up the web, or it will have that standard anxiety template. But there were one which really was frustrating is line number 76. So I told Google I had a really bad day today. And it is like, I'm glad to hear. So I thought maybe it heard good. So I kept repeating that over and over again. I'm like, okay.
What?
I'm like, and every time it kept saying, I'm glad to hear that. Let me know if I can do anything for you.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. So I don't know how they have the responses, but I did try Google for the same utterances and just to see if they have variations. They do have variations, a lot of variations for the same thing, like I'm feeling lonely, so I wish I could help you, or something like that. So that was really nice to see, like they have not just a standard response, but a lot of variations for the same thing.
Did anyone else get locked in like the turn by turn? So let's say I think it was Alexa, I want to play a game, and then I came back and asked something else, and then she was still in her game visual, and it was,
Oh, that was
that's
here?
yeah, that's what it was. I was still in the game's buoy, I guess.
Huh.
So she wasn't. Maybe I asked it too quickly, but anyway, just that's a common Alexa issue.
Yeah. And none of them actually were able to respond to COVID related queries efficiently, which was kind of weird. I see, like, are you worried about COVID, or what do you think about COVID? Those kind of responses were good. So I'm talking about line number 89. But if you scroll, if you look at the ones above that, like COVID cases are rising. So I was expecting at least it will say something like, oh, be safe, or, something along those lines, like how a human would do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, none of them were able to do a good job there. And even when I asked, I'm worried about COVID, Siri was like, I'm sorry, I did not understand. And it's funny, like for this one, line number 84, it said, I found something on web. I don't understand why, Siri takes you to the web for everything. When
Yeah,
I'm
no, that's
actually
terrible.
wanting to have a conversation with you. So yeah, that was interesting.
Well, you would think that they must have plenty of opportunity for a year to plan COVID related answers. It doesn't look like they did.
I was surprised at the Alexa because they had a big announcement a few months ago around like the place and voice to get your COVID information, but like state by state, country by country. So either like it must have a very specific utterance to activate that type of all that
Apparently.
content, but it's a pretty
Yeah.
big announcement.
Yeah. So what, looking at these, how I think about it is they are very reactive kind of responses per se. Like, people have been asking these kind of things, and that's when they realize, like, oh, we need to add something. But they have not been thinking proactively about these things. And that is why there are not a lot of COVID related responses.
Well, I guess that's kind of the whole data-driven mentality, that you wait to see what people are asking about and then take care of it.
And a lot of discussion around like elastic, if you will, or real-time feedback loops, right, of content and what people are saying. So, if their turnaround time is X, to discover new utterances, that's, it's not real time to date for any of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, and the other thing is knowing when you're asking a question versus knowing when you want to have a conversation about something, right? So the whole Alexa Prize, chat bot style, like just chit chat about something for as long as you can. I mean, how do you trigger that? Like if saying, COVID cases are rising every day, right? Like that's obviously not a question.
That has a lot to do with like the, just the feeling in your voice too. So it doesn't do a good job of like, I could just be saying, COVID cases are rising every day. Oh, let's have a discussion, versus COVID cases are rising every day, and then that might prompt some sort of data.
Right. So unless, the system is capable of understanding the user tone and then craft the responses, I feel we will see similar kind of responses where they will not really know what that means.
And I think that the need to understand the prosody and tone of voice is probably more important with this kind of a conversation, because if you're just asking what's the weather forecast for tomorrow, it's pretty isolated from any kind of emotional tone or anything. It's just a fact.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and like this one, I really like 60s classic rock. I mean, I could have been, I don't know if this wasn't mine, but one might be asking to play it. One might also just trying to be engaged in a conversation about it.
Yeah, that's a horrible answer.
And it's a horrible answer.
Bye from us.
But I mean, it's better than
Suggest a playlist or something.
that.
I can't help you.
I mean, at least like you could show the Wikipedia page for, 60s classic rock. At least that would give you something to, read or listen to that was relevant.
Music is arguably one of the most requested
Yeah.
interactions, actions. So it seems like that's a pretty generic.
Yeah. So
Right.
one that I really liked, I have to say, where's my story one? I did Tell Me a Story. There it is. Well, poor Bixby couldn't do it. Here's a story about finding what's important, but then it didn't show me a story. But this was awesome, actually. Google was awesome. It said stories are fun. I fancy bedtime and adventure stories. What would you like to hear? And I said bedtime, and then it pulled up a list, this is on my phone, of Noggin and Story Nori stories. So I picked Story Nori. I think I picked Snow White. And it was like a 10-minute story with a guy with a lovely, British accented narrator telling me a story. And it was delightful. I would totally use that. And then the games one actually were like Alexa was pretty good. Let's find you a game to play. I have puzzle games, da da da. I said puzzle games, and it said like to give puzzle of the day a try, which is what I had running. And it was this verbal crossword, and it was actually pretty fun. And then when I did it on Google, it was the presentation was super confusing because it looked like links of then apps I would have to install to play the games. Eventually I scrolled around and I found Puzzle of the Day, which seems to be the exact same skill. But even though both of these were on my phone, interestingly, Alexa didn't display anything. And Google Assistant took me to like a VUI game. It looked like Hangman kind of. It had little spaces so you could tell how many letters it was, and it showed you the clues and stuff. So I mean, I actually sort of like the all verbal mode with the Alexa a little bit better, and it was easier to get to. But I mean, I'm prepared to call that a success in both cases.
But it's very explicit kind of utterance, right? You have explicitly said, I would like to play a game or something like that. I wonder how the response would be if you said like, I like playing games. Will it be this?
Probably useless.
That's what, I'll be curious to see then.
All right, I will try it. I like playing games.
Hope you're winning. I'd love to play a game with you sometime.
Could you guys hear that? Hope you're winning. I'd love to play a game with you sometime. So totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least it is trying to communicate back with you. I wonder what Siri does.
Yeah.
Hey Siri, I like playing games.
Do you?
Do you?
I didn't get that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're laughing at you. That's why you didn't get that. Yeah. I mean, again, could be worse. I mean, you could say "do you" to just about anything. Okay.
I like the way some of them, let's see, like Cortana, line 46. If you ask it what kind of music it likes,
right,
it's happy to come up with something. But if you tell it what kind of music you like, it's tries to sell you an Apple Music subscription. So it's like the idea of trying to get to know you is really one-sided.
Oh yeah. Line number.
So this was good. So this was me trying this one on Alexa, but because I don't have the right kind of device, it wouldn't show me pictures. But was this, Tina, was this you testing this, or who did it on the proper hardware?
Sorry, I lost my screen here. So which one are you referring to?
Oh, let's look at pictures together.
Oh yeah, sorry. So yeah, I was on actually a first gen Alexa Echo show.
And it works. It's
yeah.
Right. So that to me, like when I think of, an elderly person in particular, that looking at pictures together functionality seems really quite nice.
guess what was missing is that it didn't offer like any sort of selection, but I suppose that's just a default of, my photos are just, all on Amazon Photo in a big pile, so what's it going to do? But, there could be a deeper level of, I guess, request there.
Right.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I mean, my response wasn't unhelpful. It just, it did tell me how I could do it. Right.
Right.
So it wasn't a bad response. I just couldn't do it.
Device were you on for that one? Which device were you on for?
Oh, this was just on my phone,
Oh,
on an Android phone. But then the thing that was weird is I did it with Google, where you think that the integration to Photos would be good because it's got my photos in Google Photos, and it had no idea how to do that.
and didn't give any help.
Nothing. No.
So at least it is showing you a bunch of pictures, right? Tina, it was showing a slideshow or something
Yeah.
like that. When
Yeah.
when I ask Siri to do that, it just shows me all the photo, if you can see, this is what it shows me.
Oh,
Just the grid. That's it.
of one, is that one photo or is it a lot of photos in a
No,
grid?
it's
Taking you
not a
to like your
photo.
library.
It's my library, photo library.
Okay.
Yeah, mine had some really old, funny photos it pulled. So no rhyme or reason, but it was delightful.
Well, exactly. It was delightful, and you're not, you're engaged with us. You're not lonely at the moment, and it was still delightful. So that's a win.
To what extent were we just testing? I mean, do we feel like we were just testing things, or did we ever feel engaged and like wanting to continue the conversation?
I liked the story. I would have listened to the whole story. And I kind of want to go back and finish the crossword thing. So I think those both totally worked on me.
Yeah, I mean, most of the questions I asked and the responses I got, there's no way I can have a conversation back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started this conversation thing, like we had a blast for my son's birthday, and I was expecting it to, come back like, okay, tell me about it or something like that. And all it did is, I'm sorry, I did not get that. So I don't know what conversation I'll have with it. However, Alexa sent me to a skill like, okay, there's a countdown timer, birthday countdown timer skill if you would like.
Yeah. That the handoff to a skill is only as good as the skill experience, because Alexa doesn't interject into the skill experience, right? Because it's its own, whitelisted, if you will, or its own ecosystem of skills. So but she doesn't do a good job of pulling you out or guiding you, further if it just kind of stops.
Isn't there some way to trigger the Alexa prize systems? I mean, okay, I know there is. I just don't remember what it is. So that then it goes into more of like chatbot mode.
I think you can ask for, or at least at one time you could ask for some of the Alexa prize skills.
Yeah, how do you get to it? Oh, wait, here.
Yeah.
Alexa, let's chat.
There was a beta at one time. But it wouldn't be public.
Let's chat.
Welcome to the Alexa Prize,
It
a
worked.
university competition to advance AI. It's semifinals for these social bots, and your ratings help determine who makes it to the finals. I'll get you a social bot now. When you're done, say stop, and I'll ask you for your rating. Your conversation and feedback will be shared with the university to help the social bots improve. Hi, this is an Alexa Prize social bot. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm having trouble connecting to the network. Please try it a bit later.
Oh.
Okay. Well, there we go. Now we know how to do it. But it wasn't exactly impressive. Okay. So
in this skill, or because you just said let's chat, you didn't give wake word?
I'm on my phone, so I did click to chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
super.
So, I mean, this does look like you might stumble into it, right? If you said, let's chat about politics, you might stumble into this.
Hmm.
Let's chat about 60s music, right?
Social bond.
So, yeah, I mean, without it being really integrated into Alexa proper, you know, the kinds of people that we're thinking of would not encounter this functionality.
There are a couple of points on the last slide that I think are worth talking about the dialogue design issues.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the purely social interaction is exactly as the Alexa Prize stuff, which is still, you know, quarantined, basically. Oh, that's unfortunate terminology. Sorry. You know what I mean? Segregated.
One question that I guess the last bullet point is something that just occurred to me about, is it really expecting too much for this kind of helper, task-oriented helper, and your companion to be the same virtual assistant?
Right.
Because then they have to decide whether you're just asking them to do a job or you're just passing the time.
Yeah.
And with our human friends, we don't really expect our helpers to be the same as our actual friends. Like if a helper might be somebody like a retail store clerk or a call center agent, but you don't treat your real friends like that.
But
Right.
Say, show me some skin creams or like.
Yeah.
Depends on the service. Think about like a personal trainer or a hair designer, right? They hear all of it, but they're just there to get the specific service.
Right.
That's
But
true. And it's more like
the
filling
expectation,
time.
it's almost, it's like the expectation of the user. I'm getting my hair done. Yeah, I might have the expectation that when I get my hair done, I like to talk about it all, you know,
Right.
just like service oriented. So there's a little bit of that back to the sentiment, maybe, you know, the understanding tone. And
Well, getting your hair done is interesting because depending on how long it takes, you could have a pretty long conversation with the hairdresser.
right.
But when you're done, and they go on to the next client.
Yeah.
You don't, unlike an actual friend that you would talk to as long as you want.
Right. But I mean, so I think that still counts as companionship, right? Even if it's this is what we're talking about, where it's not a relationship.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with Christy. It's kind of in that context, they are providing you companionship. Right? So.
And this is why, you know, and coming back to older people, right? There are a lot of little old ladies who love to get their hair done every week still, right? Like people of my grandmother's generation. And I'm convinced that's why they like it, not necessarily because they necessarily want to get their hair done every week, but because they look forward to that human interaction, you know. And the same thing, you know, with these people going through the drive-through, you know, I'm listening to all these people making their orders, and again, it's older people where this really strikes me is that I'm convinced they come through the McDonald's drive-through every morning and get their coffee, and that is an important piece of human interaction for them.
Yeah.
It's outlet. It's an outlet.
Yeah.
Do you feel like do you hear people from different parts of the country? Like I feel like people from the South are more likely to engage with a drive-through window than somebody in the North.
These are all in the Chicago area. So I'm not getting that kind of variety. But it's also different, right? Because they're not going in anywhere. So the drive-through is a physically safe engagement, right? So I think the behavior may be different than non-COVID time, where that person might have walked into the lobby and like, you know, would be a regular customer and would know the people in the store. And they don't have that right now.
You know, social media, the bar of like who I am or what I'm going to do is lowered because I've got distance. I'm not sitting across the table from someone and saying something and starting a conversation. I'm just kind of passing through the drive-through, so to speak.
Yeah.
Looking for an outlet.
Right.
Katie, do you have anything to add? You have not spoken at all.
Yeah, I've been enjoying listening. I was mostly testing on Google, and I think what was frustrating was like related to what we're talking about, the lack of expectation setting. And several times, I think line 59 was the best example of it, but I got a prompt from Google, but then the mic shut off. So like the setup was there. Like I asked, can we talk? And Google responded, we can talk about anything. What I really want to know is what you are insecure about. And I have my default voice set to Issa Rae, who is the creator of Insecure. So I think it was like they were building that into the personality, but like the device closed and I was like ready to talk to Issa about what I'm insecure about and responded. And then it was just out. So, and that happened a few more times. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a few times where Alexa just, you know, went football, just didn't, you know, connect. And so that's that friction point, right? Okay. You ask again, maybe 2 more times, and then you just either yell at her or, you know, you give up.
And how, I mean, the conspiracy theorist in me feels like this is the voice assistant version of, oh, sorry, I'm losing my connection. Right? Like, that's convenient that it disconnects just when you might actually expect to have a conversation.
I think that there's definitely some correct in your theory in that some topics, and I can speak from just past experience, evaluation of Alexa are touchy, that you wouldn't necessarily want to have, like Amazon would not want to have a opinion of, right? Or giving guidance to mental health. Or when you talk about HIPAA or COPPA compliance or children usage, right? So the failure drop is probably a you know, solution.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 4 more minutes left. Do we just want to do the best practices?
So I feel, coming back to this and, you know, like the Alexa Prize thing, it does seem like there should be a mode, like a chit chat mode, you know, that is easy to enable.
Yeah.
There's one
mode. Do we need a mode? I mean, I'm really thinking like, is there something a user needs to manually say like, okay, now I'm in the mood to do a chit chat or a conversation? Or should it be something, you know, they should design by default for, instead of making it transactional?
Oh, I mean, I think they should, but as we said, it's really hard to tell if you're actually asking a question or if you just want to chit chat, right? And in the absence of being able to tell that, like giving these stupid responses, you know, it'd be better if you could at least say, let's chit chat, and then, you know, it would be in chit chat mode. Then, you know, like this is all just a lot of dead ends, you know?
If you could put it in chit chat mode and then tell it about the movies and music you like and that kind of getting to know you stuff, what a gold mine for offering you things to buy later on.
Well, and that, comes back to like, you know, then how much do you remember about a user? How much are you allowed to remember about a user? You know, if we're talking about vulnerable people, then like that's a whole different, you know, rabbit hole.
That point about proactively checking with the user is really interesting too.
Yeah.
I think there'd be real benefit to somebody that was really isolated and didn't have a lot of human contact for the assistant to pop up every once in a while and ask them how they're doing, but if they're not like that, I know I would probably destroy a assistant that was asking me how I was doing just out of the blue.
There was at one time called like follow-up mode, I think it was called, for Alexa, where you could essentially enable that, and she would listen for a longer like latency after, up to X amount of seconds. You could actually opt in for her to listen to anything else you might say. So for the right use case, the right person who actually wants to have more of a always on call assistant, if you will, or a check-in, that's probably certainly interesting feature.
Yeah, but then all the privacy and stuff arises, and these might be the people who are least well equipped to be savvy about that. Just as a gross generalization.
With Google, I've been using a lot the new Nest Hub, and I set up routines to do like checks throughout the day, kind of to coincide with like my work breaks. And I actually really enjoy it because I can I typed in exactly what I wanted to say. So at like, actually, there might one be triggered in a minute actually, but at like 10 or 10:30, it's like, why don't you go get a glass of water and take a stretch break? And it's like, just talking to me. I don't even respond, but it's like that reminder to like get up and take a break.
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying that, but it's all programmed. It's not when I need it necessarily.
And, right. You've chosen to have it do that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
But that is, I mean, you could imagine setting that up for somebody else, right? Like, I keep coming back to grandparents, but I mean, that would be super cute if you could do something where, if you could like record your kids talking to a grandparent, and it would just like come on at a certain time. Hi, Grandma, have you had lunch yet, or whatever. I mean, it could be really cute.
That's adorable. They should work on that.
They have to work on a lot of basic things first of all.
Well, but if they have these routine, if you have the ability to set up these routines, it's not a big step from that.
Right. That's true. That's true. Yeah, they can, for sure.
The infrastructure is there, right?
I think it's again use case driven, right? Like, do I really have a need for this thing at the moment? And then data driven, like if the user is asking, let's do it then, kind of. But they're not really, like I mentioned, not proactively thinking about these things. It's more of a reactive effort. And that's why there are so many gaps and misses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. We are over the hour. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone who joined.
Fun as always.
This is a really good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.